What's up, guys? This is Nick with EDC Mag, and today I want to talk about the RSK Orca. The Orca comes in this really big case, very well protected. It's a custom knife, fully handmade custom by Knifeworks or RSK. Tell you what, before we get into this, I want to show you guys this real quick. This is a spike. It's called a tactical spike. If you're not familiar with them, look them up. This one is by Mike Riddle. He's on Facebook as Spikes by Mike, and he makes some really cool spikes. Now there are a lot of other spikes and options out there, but he's definitely, in my opinion, one of the best as far as his designs and what he does. This is full-on titanium. He makes them in a lot of different materials, and this one I just got from a friend, and definitely I think is going to end up with a lanyard. So this comes with a really nice Kydex holster, so you can turn this into a neck knife, or you could put a clip on it somehow. But just a really neat little EDC tool that is just fun to have, fun to play with. So FYI, Spikes by Mike on Facebook, check him out. Alright, so RS Knifeworks, the RSK Orca. This thing is cool. This is the Fat Boy version. It is CPM S35 VN. The finish is a blackout, and it is also carbon fiber. Just a gorgeous carbon fiber. This is called, the scales according to the card are custom windowed carbon waves. Super cool. I've had a lot of different carbon fibers, and man, this is just really neat. It's the edges are beveled really well on this. Nothing sharp, nothing, I guess as you would say, hot spot. Everything's really super well done on this. But the star of the show, I think, at least to me, is that blade shape. How cool is that? S35 VN. So not super heavy, but not super light either. Actually, let's take a look. I picked this up the other day so we could do just this. Let's see what this bad boy weighs. A lot of these knives, you can't look them up. On these custom knives, you can't look them up and figure out, well, how heavy is this thing. So Jim Skelton always says he's not a drug dealer, so he doesn't have a scale, which personally I find hilarious. And I'm not a drug dealer, but I bought this scale anyway, and I have to hide it from my wife because she's health nut. She'll steal it. Let's see, 9.59 ounces. So that's a pretty heavy knife. I mean, in the world of EDC, that's a heavy knife. In my world of EDC, not so much. But you have to realize that's a whole lot of steel right there. It's a thicker steel. Here, let's do this. Now this blade is 4 inches all the way to about halfway to the back of the bevel. So your cutting edge is going to be a little bit less than that, but just to give you an idea, here's our 3.2 inch Kershaw link. So just to give you an idea size wise, and then let's just, they call this the Fat Boy, just so you get an idea of the thickness of the steel we're talking about here. I have calipers, but I didn't dig them out before I started this. But it's a thick blade. It's a thick spine. Now this obviously is going to be this Orca is going to be a very unique knife. It's not something you're going to see every day. I've noticed, I was surprised, I didn't realize until I had already gotten this, how many different knives out there are called Orca. There's quite a few, which is fine. But one thing that I noticed about this almost right off the bat, man, I just love the design. There's a couple things I like about this. I like really tall blades. So a tall blade. I just like the way they look. I like the way they look out, and I like the way they look when they're seated. Just you look at that and you know there's a whole lot of business going on inside that, even when it's closed. It's just aggressive. And you can spider flick this. I'm not very good at it because I'm not a Spyderco guy, but you can very easily. If I can do it, then anybody that knows how can do it very easily. You can thumb flip it. One thing I did notice about this though is, and I wouldn't, it's definitely not a flaw, it's just different. I mean, it's a custom knife, it's a unique design, so you know, there's going to be unique things about it. It's not going to operate necessarily like every other knife out there. It certainly doesn't look like every other knife out there. But one thing I noticed was you can't close this thing because of that trigger. It hits you right there, and that's not enough to unlock it. You see what I mean? So you can either unlock it and then slide it down and unlock again, or once you get used to it, let's see if I can, there you go. Or once you get used to it, you know, you can just hit it down here and then you're golden. So just a little bit different operation than what a lot of knives are. I mean, most of them you're used to grabbing them up here and unlocking them. This one you got to choke down a little bit further. I haven't had it long enough to really get the exact sweet spot, but it's not that big a deal really. I mean, for the design, if you whip this out in public, I'm really not sure what people think. I mean, it's kind of big, it's kind of mean, you know, I mean, Orca is a good name for it, I think. It looks cute, but, you know, it'd probably kill you. I don't reckon I got no reason to kill nobody. So, anyway, RS Knifeworks, excuse me, Rob Saniscalchi. He closed his books, I don't know, maybe a year ago, year and a half ago, maybe a year ago. And he was just, his orders were like 2.5 years behind. A fellow knife guy saw this and he asked me about Rob. He wasn't familiar, and Rob makes some really cool designs. He's a great guy. Check him out even on YouTube. He's got some really great videos about knife making, about him making knives. He's not huge on IG, but definitely stays very up to date on his Facebook, on RS Knifeworks on Facebook, so check that out. But he you know, he's got some really neat content out there about his knives and his designs. Man, for me, they just really do it. This is my third RS Knifeworks blade, and I still have a Paragon, and I had another, I think it was I can't remember what it was called, but it was more of a Warncliffe style blade, but just really super neat knives. And Rob's a cool guy, but anyway, I think he got a little. Man, he was so far behind in his orders, and so he just shut down his books, and he was like, that's it, no more orders. So he closed them permanently, and the guy that saw this, he reached out to Rob, and Rob said he was still like 14 months behind on his orders. So I know Rob's doing a lot of stuff on the side, outside of just his orders. He does, you know, he's kind of making what he wants to make instead of just trying to catch, I mean, he's trying to catch up on orders, and he is. But he's doing some other fun stuff and really neat stuff on the side. So on occasion, you can still get knives from Rob, but you can get what he's making, not necessarily, you know, placing an order and getting something specific, unless you've, you know, already placed one, you know, a year or two ago and you're still waiting. So I was lucky enough to come across this from a friend on IG that's a major knife guy. Major knife collector, and man, I couldn't be happier with it. I mean, like all his knives, you know, titanium frame lock. I think this is the first one I've had of his that actually had S35VN, but hey, there's nothing wrong with S35VN. It's a fantastic super steel. It's got the nice lanyard hole. I'm not a big lanyard guy when it comes to knives. I went through a phase. They're fun to make, but just you know, a lot of it is too. I don't really keep knives long enough to do a lanyard. I'll spend 2 days making the lanyard and make it so that it's part of the knife, and then I'll trade the knife, and then I'll cut it off and throw it in a box, and I'll never see it again. So lanyards really aren't my thing, but they do serve a purpose. So anyway, RS Knifeworks Orca, check it out. It's super cool. I mentioned Jim Skelton earlier. If you're looking at this knife, you're probably familiar with Jim. He's part of the reason why I got into this. When I was always looking, I'm always chasing down knives that aren't mainstream, and it seems like 80% of the time Jim was the guy that had one in hand and had reviewed it, and I've been watching his reviews for a long time, and it kind of inspired me to do something similar. So shout out to Jim Skelton. If you haven't seen his videos, I'm sure you have, but if you haven't, I mean, he's making knives now. He's making some phenomenal knives, so check him out definitely. Anyway, okay, so we got Mike Brittle, Spikes by Mike. Check him out on Facebook. We've got RS Knifeworks, amazing knives. If you can find one on the secondary market, man, quality is definitely there. Fit and finish is there. Rob's an awesome maker out of Pennsylvania, so check him out. I think that'll do it. Really appreciate you guys watching and subscribing. If you haven't subscribed, please do. We're just getting started, and a lot more stuff to come. I'm going to do something. I got delayed. I didn't get this one out as fast as I wanted to, so I'm going to do an additional review of a different knife here coming up pretty quick. Actually, a production knife that I really love. It's probably hands down the best production knife I bought last year. So I want to talk about. I'm going to do a little review on it real quick. And but hey, thanks for watching. Thanks for being a part. Have a great day.